This is the Ics M1 Garand. Here we are again, people. Welcome back to the Airsoft Mike YouTube channel, where we have another episode where I show you airsoft representations of the weapons as used in the very popular video game Call of Duty World War II. And of course, as used during World War II itself. So today, it's the turn of the M1 Garand. Absolutely love how they've designed this box. Beautiful photo of the Ics M1 Garand. Oh my gosh, let's get this thing open. Ho-ho! Okay, let's see what we've got in the box. First thing, sorry. Oh my gosh! Anyway, I'll show it to you properly in a moment. But yeah, looks like you get a set of instructions. So let's just get this out. Oh cool, and there's a ICS brochure showing you some more of their airsoft guns. And then of course, right here, we have the manual. And the good thing about this, as you can see there, you've also got English for each of the diagrams. Nice, and there's your exploded view. Oh, look at all that loveliness. Do you know what? This is the first time, oh wow, look, even more. This is the first time I've bought an ICS product. I've seen many people talk about ICS in the comments. Sometimes I will buy an airsoft gun and then you get the odd cheeky little comment saying, no, you should have got ICS. Just totally rubbishing the one that I've unboxed. Should have got ICS. So I thought, you know what? There were 3 versions of this I had my eye on by 3 different manufacturers. And I decided to go for ICS, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But look there, look. There's the ICS, and look, there's even an anniversary one there, which is, I don't know if you can pick that up on the camera. Everywhere you would see black on the original, it's gold. So let's get to it. First thing I can see is you get one of these old-fashioned, but I still think they're pretty cool, old-fashioned speed loaders. But I won't be using this. I'll be using a regular speed loader. So what else have we got? Ah, nice. A mag. Now I believe there's 2 mags because I can see one already in the Garand. Now, before we go any further, we all know what is really famous about these M1 Garands. Exactly. So we'll talk about that in a moment, and the situation with the mags. Ah, nice. And we've got a bag of ICS BBs and a couple of fuses. This bad boy has a MOSFET already built in. Excellent. And unlike most free BBs that you get in a box, I'm not going to throw these bad boys away because I guess that these ICS BBs are pretty decent. I mean, look, original competition grade. And guess what else is in the box? And not only is it an unjamming rod, it's also a cleaning rod. And I've got something else. I have so much respect for this representation of the M1 Garand. Yes, I bought a genuine leather reproduction of the M1 Garand sling. Oh, I'll put that on later. And I've also bought a bag for this thing. A really nice reproduction of the original bag that you could get for these M1 Garands. But I'm waiting for Parcel Force to deliver that to me and it hasn't come yet. So if they arrive by the time I finish filming, I'll show it to you. If not, no biggie. Okay, let's get this out. Oh, this has been a long time in coming. Oh, and the weight. Look at the beauty of this thing. Now, if you're familiar with the real steel version, you will appreciate how much detail the ICS has gone into in making this. Now, let me talk about the 3 different brands that I had my eye on before I show you this one up close and personal. Now, I was in the market for, obviously, an Airsoft M1 Garand. I saw A&K, I saw ICS, and I saw G&G. Now, of course, there was a Mauritian one years ago, which was a bit more realistic, but we'll talk about that later. The A&K one was the cheapest. Then the most expensive ones was the G&G and the ICS. In fact, on the particular site I saw this on, this came in just under the price of the G&G. Now, I almost clicked the buy button for the G&G one until I realized something. I did a bit more research. In terms of functionality, the ICS comes out on top. Now, before you say it, I know that some people will say that the G&G possibly has better internals, but come on, ICS. They're hardly a cheap rubbish brand. They're up there at the higher end of M1 Garands. But again, we will go into all of this a little later. So, just to dispel some of the information that's been put out there about this particular ICS M1 Garand, let's have a look and see what it's constructed of. Now, it's all real wood, but I've seen some sites saying it's made out of wood and steel. I believe it's made out of real wood, which it is, okay, that's fact. This is real wood stock right here, wood furniture, and this is all real metal. But is it all steel? Well, let's test it and see. Here's my trusty little tester. So, at the back here, you've got your rear sling point. No, not steel, so that's aluminium. Aluminum. And while we're still at the back here, what about this butt plate right here? Is it steel or aluminium? Okay, I know, for the Americans and a few other countries, it's aluminum. But for the Brits, it's aluminium. Is it steel? Well, no, because the magnet just fell off. Oh no, that's strange. I get it. Yeah, aluminium, but the screws are steel. Okay, so let's go to the trigger guard. Nice, that's steel. So some websites are correct in saying that certain elements are steel. So your trigger guard, steel. The trigger, aluminium. Your safety, steel. Your mag, I won't even test that because that is plastic. What I like about this mag situation is that it actually looks like the plate that you have on the real steel. So all is not lost just because it uses this type of mag. Oh, stop press. Fun fact, that thing that I keep referring to as a plate is actually part of the trigger group in the real steel world. Still looks authentic. Okay, so we're here at this section and I'm telling you I'm getting excited because I didn't realise something, but I'll show you that in a moment. But anyway, what about here? Around the bolt assembly, your bolt handle, your sights, your bolt lock and your mag release as well, that doubles up. But any of this steel? No. No. Oh. Your sight is steel. No, bolt handle is not steel. Oh, nice. Your bolt is steel. I'll talk about the bolt in a moment because in a sense it's a mock bolt, but it does have a function. Okay, so what about the band right here? Is that steel? Yes, it's steel. And we've got another one right here. Is that steel? No. And how about this sling point? It should be steel because funny enough, it looks steel. It's steel. Okay, so as we get to the front portion of this M1 Garand, or if you like the business end of this M1 Garand, what about this? Some people mistaken this as a very front sling point. It's not a sling point, it's a swivel stack. Apparently if you have 3 of these bad boys, you can stack them like a teepee by interlocking them with this thing right here. Steel. Okay, so the gas cylinder, the barrel, the front sight, let's have a check. No. No. Oh, hang on. No. So the rest of it is aluminium. Wow. This bad boy's got some weight to it. I love that. And it's solidly built as well. I was expecting a lot of wobbly parts and everything. That's a true testimony to the quality of this ICS representation of the M1 Garand. Let me go into right now why I went for this and not the A&K version or the G&G version. Now, I'm not saying the G&G version or the A&K versions are rubbish, far from it. But there's certain things about this ICS version, for me, beats the other two. Okay, we know now this is by ICS, yes? Good. Now, let's talk about the bolt action on this thing and why I prefer this over the A&K and the G&G. Now, both the A&K and the G&G, and of course this ICS version, it's got a movable bolt handle and it returns by itself as well. Ooh, that sounds so sweet. And if you take a close look, when I rack it back, just like the real steel, watch the bolt start to rotate. You see, ooh, you see that? let me do that again. Ooh, and bring it all the way back. Now, here's the difference between this and the rest in its field. With the A&K, it doesn't go back as far as this. Now with the A&K and the G&G, you can't lock the bolt back. So if you're in there adjusting the hop up or doing whatever, you've got to hold on to that bad boy, because if you don't, bang! And imagine if your finger or thumb is still in there. Garand thumb, anyone? However, with the ICS, rack the bad boy back, then on the other side, what normally functions as your mag release, if you press that in, it locks the bolt open. However, what I didn't show you was that if you're going to lock your bolt open, you need to remove the mag. Now, as we're talking about the mag situation, let's get into this whole issue of it's not an M1 Garand if you don't have that. Exactly. So on the real steel and on one of the Marusian versions of this, once your clip is emptied, not a mag, clip is emptied, the clip will come flying out and you will hear exactly. Now the Marusian one did that as well. However, where I feel the Marusian one fell down is what they should have done is done it a bit like the Car 98K. They should have had it shell ejecting, yeah? Where you put the little BBs in each one and they fly out of the actual gun itself. And then of course, when the clip is empty, yeah, it should fly out the top. Now, the Marusian one, it did fly out of the top, but it didn't have the shells. But it didn't have the shells, or should I say shell casings, or should I say casings, or anyway, move on. It just had a little compartment where you just shoved the little BBs in. So again, although I couldn't find the Marusian one anywhere to buy anyway, the ICS one was always going to be the choice for me for that main reason that no, it doesn't have that realistic thing where the clip flies out of the top when it's empty, but I love how the bolt action works. Watch what happens when I pull this bolt back. Look at that bad boy right there. Just like the real steel. This thing is absolutely gorgeous. I'm loving the stain on the wood. Possibly could be a little bit darker. I don't know, but I just love how it looks anyway. Again, I've got some strong studio lights in there, so it is making it look a little bit lighter than it actually is. Now, would you look at the trades right there? Absolutely love this. Look at that. It's got its own unique serial number right there. And of course, right here is what you would expect to find on the real steel. Now, as we're here already at the rear of this beautiful piece, let's talk about your sights. Again, just like the real steel, you've got your elevation and windage, or I've heard it been referred to as windage and distance. So right here is where you would adjust your windage. You might be able to pick this up on camera, but if I turn it, you can see it moving to one side, and then you can just move it the other way as well. Perfect. And then of course, you've got my favorite part of adjusting the rear sight. Take a look at this. Ha! How cool is that? Just like the real steel. And then of course, you have your front sight, which is also adjustable. And right here on the trigger portion of this M1 Garand, you've got your safety switch right there. So right now, this thing is on safe. If you're going to fire, push it forward, and it's ready to go. And as shown earlier, apart from being able to lock your bolt back, this is your mag release. Now, ICS have supplied 2 of these mags in the box. They take around 42 rounds. Now, as mentioned before, even though this mag system isn't true to the real steel one, it still looks like the plate that you do see on the real M1 Garand. Now, just like the real deal, it does have a place right here for your bayonet. However, I searched high, I searched low. I could not find a retailer that sold any rubber M1 Garand bayonets. And would you believe I could see the real ones online, but I'm not about to get one of those. Okay, now so to the butt plate right here. Now, another clever thing that I really like. Now, for you reenactors, you've got to love this, because this whole thing just looks like the real thing, but even down to the small detail where you'd probably think, well, yeah, that's where you're going to tell the difference between the real thing and the Airsoft version. The battery compartment. But guess what? Even on the real steel, no, the real steel does not take a battery, but even on the real steel, there is also a little door just like the Airsoft version. So obviously, for us Airsofters, that's where you'd put your battery pack. But on the real steel version, I believe you could put little tools in there. I'm not sure. If you know any better, hit that comment section. As we're here at the battery compartment, what battery pack do you get in the box? Well, as you saw earlier, there was none. You don't get a battery pack, you've got to get your own. So on some websites, I see some say they recommend an 8.4 battery pack, and some say a 9.6 battery pack. And I know 1 or 2 people that run a LiPo in the M1 Garand from ICS. I think they run a 7.4 LiPo. But what about space, capacity? What size battery can you fit in there? Well, obviously the 8.4 will have no issues fitting in there whatsoever. What about the 9.6, which is a bit bigger? Again, no issue. Even with the fuse system down there, I don't know if you can see it, just down there, there you go. It's got a fuse in there. Still no issue with capacity. But what if you've got one of these big old long battery packs? Will one of these fit down there? Let's have a look. Again, absolutely fantastic. There is loads of room down there despite the initial appearance. And you can even fit the nunchuck style battery pack in there. So for the sake of today's review and test, I'm going to slap a 9.6 volt battery pack in here. Loads of room. Absolutely love that. And just because it's got loads of room, it doesn't mean things are going to be rattling about in there. Everything is nice, snug, and secure. Now, you know I don't usually like to dry fire, but for you guys, for the sake of this video, I need to test that this thing works. Because you know in the past, sometimes I buy airsoft guns and they are DOA. Oh boy, this one better work because I've been so excited about this. The anticipation was real. Now, let's take it off safe. Quick test. Ooh, very nice, very snappy. Come on, you've got to admit, yeah, this looks sweet. Oh my gosh. The Ics M1 Garand. And if you're wondering where I got this sling from, it's genuine leather. It's a reproduction of the original sling that you would have found on these bad boys. Yeah, eBay. Seriously, just go on eBay and put in M1 Garand sling. Simple as that. And you'll see a few of these listed. Brand new, looks the business, real leather, does the job. Yeah, so I reckon the next time I fire up that PS4, and when I go online to play Call of Duty WW2, I'm gonna run with this loadout. I'm gonna have an M1 Garand and the 1911. All right, quick accuracy test and then we're gonna chrono it. So we're basically gonna go for the rifle target. That's what these smaller ones are here. They're for the rifle target. So what I'll do is I'll go for 2 in there, 2 in there, 2 in there. Okay, now just in case you're wondering, that's not good. It blooming well is good. From the distance I was, and the size of these tiny, look, they're only just a bit bigger than the end of my finger right there. That's pretty good, considering I've got 1 on target in there, 1 outside, and this one both on target in there, 1 outside there, and 1 pretty much on bullseye. Okay, so I'm gonna adjust the sight, okay? I'm gonna sight this in a bit better, and then I'm gonna go for these 3 right here, 2 in each, okay? Let's do this. Because as you can see there, again, on my very first shot, just outside this very tiny target, and then I've got 1 on the edge right here, but people, would you look at this one right here? My first shot in this target went just there, just right center of the absolute bullseye. My second one went into the same exact hole. That's good. And then I moved over to this one, and again, hit right there and just on the edge of the target right there. Now I've got to say this again because sometimes people just don't understand. In terms of accuracy, good. Even though I'm outside of that target, most target systems, that would actually be this entire target here would be the actual size of the bullseye. And then you'd have a bigger ring around there and then a bigger ring around there. So here, look, case in point right here. Yes, this is for archery, but again, it still represents a target system. You see the bullseye right there? So if you hit anywhere in that circle right there, it's considered a bullseye. And then you've got all these other rings and circles to make one massive target. Now, if I move this to one side. That is the entire target right there. The bullseye is right there, okay? Look. The bullseye here is the same size of the entire target right there. Do you get my point? Thank you. Oh, that is pretty sweet. We're looking at an average of about literally 445 FPS. Nice. Now if you're thinking, isn't that a little bit too hot for CQB? CQB? Hell no! You want to be outside with this bad boy. And yeah, you can even run this as a sniper rifle with that sort of reading. Now, when I say outside, I don't mean outside in the street or in your local neighborhood. I mean at your airsoft field outside, okay? Cool. So here it is, people. This is the M1 Garand by Ics. I absolutely love the fact that it's made out of real wood, real metal. There are some steel components on there. I love that I was able to find a reproduction of the original leather sling. This thing is awesome. This has now gone into my top 5 most favorite airsoft guns that I own. Now I know what you're asking. Am I going to do a top 5 of my favorite airsoft guns? Maybe, I might just do that. But this is definitely up there with the best of them. But is it all good? Absolute perfection? Well, no. You know I like to be honest with my reviews, so I found one con and only one con. Everything else is pros. And that one con is, when you fill that mag with around 42 rounds, I have found it won't shoot all 42. 2 or 3 will just fall out when you pull the mag out. That's it. And you know what? A lot of airsoft guns do that anyway. Not all, but a lot do. So I'm not too fussed, and considering the real steel only shoots about 8, you're doing pretty good shooting that many BBs. Other than that, I absolutely love this thing. People, this is the Ics M1 Garand. Check the video description below for a price point and all the different airsoft retailers that sell this. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.